Hello and welcome to Stretford, Paddock. My name is Joe. That is Stephen Howson.
We look like if Home Alone was set in Northern Quarter.
We do. Northern Quarter Home Alone. Yeah, that's a really good point.
What we called the Coffee Bandits or something.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to be talking about Man United, surprise, surprise, post-Amorim, and looking, before we get to this list of who should be the next manager, we've seen Jim Ratcliffe speak months and months ago when he first came in about how United are going to have a through line. There's going to be an identity to this club. And the manager will come in and he will serve that identity. Whether they'll have their own opinions, their own way of doing things, but we're not going to go from Ten Hag's to Amorims to Jose's to Solskjaer and flip-flop back and forth in terms of style. So I want to look at this squad that we have now. However, of course, yeah, you never know.
We clearly are.
This squad that we have now, and actually, what type of manager does it suit? How should we be playing with this squad? Because one of the big reasons it seems Amorim's been sacked is because of a disconnect between his formation and the ownership, his formation and the pundits and the fans and the players ultimately. So how should we be playing with this manager, with this squad, should I say, and what type of manager do we need to implement that? So just fundamentally, let's just start with the five at the back thing, because that's been spoken about so much. Can Manchester United's next manager play with a five at the back or a three at the back?
I'm going to roll it back a little bit because I actually don't think I think the formation issue has been made more of than it should be. I think it's an issue. I think it's less of an issue than the results. Yeah. I think if the results had been good, no one gives a toss what formation you play. But because the results weren't good, the formation becomes a reason because it's different. And this is different. Like, forget the fact that we played 4-3-3 and 4-2-3-1 and sacked every single other manager before that. When everyone was looking at what's possibly different. And I don't necessarily think that there's anything wrong with the formation. I think the way we were implementing it, and Glasner's shown you that, you can be a lot more solid with a lot less resources at Crystal Palace and actually win something using this same formation. So I think there's been far too much made of the formation. I think the manager's willingness or lack of willingness to adapt to get the best out of the team, to get the results, that's been more of an issue than the formation specifically. So I want to just put that out there beforehand. Yep. What was the next part of the question you said? So what formation do you think that the next manager should play?
Yeah.
Or what suits us? Well, the problem that you've got is he's just got rid of, 3-4 wingers?
Yeah.
And Mbumo's not really a natural winger. Ahmad's not really a natural winger. Cunha's not really a natural winger. They can play there and they'll be fine there, but they're not entirely natural go round the outside sort of wingers, or necessarily even the Mo Salah style inside forward come and smash one in. They probably all actually suit playing off a main striker, funnily enough. That's not necessarily even a deal breaker though, because as you've seen with the famous Klopp Liverpool team, you can have a relatively narrow three and you can push your fullbacks
They
up.
were real inside forward type players, weren't they, there with Mane?
If you look at their average position, like Manchester City and Liverpool, in that era, the Pep Klopp sort of era, they both played the same formation with a totally different implementation. The forwards from Manchester City would go wide and they would look for underlaps. Yeah. That would be how they would have like a bounce around the corner for an underlap and then cut it back to the centre of the penalty spot. What Liverpool did was push the forwards narrow, and they would use deeper crosses from fullbacks that was giving you the width. So it's still 5 across the back line, but the personnel was different in terms of how they got there. Manchester United are still trying to put 5 across the back line.
The opposition's back line, you mean?
Yeah, we're doing it with wing backs and then our narrow forward 3. And I think that no matter who comes in, you might still see the same sort of thing. You might see a 4-2-3-1 where your 3 and your 1 are pushing at the back line, and then one of the fullbacks comes in and joins, and that gives you the 5 in the back line, and then your midfield and your other 3 of your 4 defenders creates that 3-2-5. Because 3-2-5 is basically the shape everyone is attacking in. Yeah. Everybody is trying to attack in that sort of shape. So I don't think it matters in a grand scheme that our wide forwards aren't your natural wingers. I'm just making the point that I don't think they are quite natural wingers. A Semenyo, for example, would have been more of a natural winger, whereas Cunha, I think, suits playing in between the lines a little bit. That being said, I think that they are quite adaptable players. And as I've thought for a long time, no one, and this is probably the main issue that I think most United fans have with the formation Amorim played. Bruno's not a pivot player. Casemiro, when you ask him to play the pivot with Bruno, basically means he's playing it on his own, can't cover both sides of the pitch. No coincidence that Casemiro's actually looked a little bit more competent playing alongside Ugarte, because Ugarte's kind of doing half of that sort of dirty work and lets Casemiro just focus on doing it on one side of the pitch. Not a coincidence. When we've played a back four, which means that we then play a midfield three, whether that's a 2 and a 1 or a 3, what you're seeing is that structural sort of stability through the middle of the pitch. We are a lot harder to play through in the middle of the pitch. When we played the back three, and it was Casemiro and Bruno, we kind of got... people ran at our back line very easily. I think when you put extra bodies in the centre of the pitch, 3 midfielders, it clogs it up. And I think the 4 sort of first-choice midfielders that we've got, Ugarte, Mainu, Casemiro, Bruno, I think 3 of those 4 is a good midfield in any configuration, basically. I think 3 of those 4, you get a pretty good midfield out of it, a 6, 8 and a 10. I think you'd probably get a pretty good midfield no matter which 3 you went with.
Yep.
I think you get a pretty ordinary or pretty bad midfield with whichever 2 you go for to play as a double pivot. So when I look at the makeup of the squad, I'd still like us to sign a midfielder, and I'm certain that Casemiro's the training's in the station for him. He's going at some point. When you look at our options for right back in a back 4, you say Delo and Mazraoui at right back. Pretty happy with that.
Yeah.
I think actually you might even see the best version of Mazraoui.
Mazraoui, yeah, I was going to say that, because he didn't get long at fullback before it was wing backs, did he, last season? So yeah, I think we might see an even better version of him.
At centre half, you've got 5 decent options.
Yep.
I would argue our best 2, probably our 2 most injury prone, unfortunately, which is De Ligt and Martinez.
Yeah. And
then you've got Maguire, Heaven and Yoro. It's not a bad makeup.
No.
A couple of young prospects, a little bit of an older head, and your 2 sort of first choice, but they're injured, so everyone else is going to get a game, and don't worry about it. And then at left back, you've got Dorgu and Shaw, and possibly Harry Amas, maybe.
Yeah, he's back from Wednesday, isn't he? So.
Yeah, but it sounds like he's going out again, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But either way, you'd hope he's still around next season because he's only 18. Nice bit of experience in the Championship, played every week. As a defence, it's not the worst defence I've ever heard, to be honest with you. And I'm actually very excited to see what Martinez and De Ligt could do in a 2.
It's mad that they've never played together, really. Like, have they ever started a game together? Maybe a couple last season?
Maybe, yeah.
Before before Martinez got injured. Did they start that Liverpool game together? The 1-1?
I couldn't tell you.
Potentially. But yeah, very, very rare and very few, which
so
is mad.
If you got... I think we probably need another left side forward.
Yeah.
Or maybe someone that could play striker and left side.
Yeah.
Some people are going Marcus Rashford. I think that ship sailed, to be honest with you. But someone of that sort of ilk would be a pretty good signing for United right now, because then you've got someone to compete with Sesko and to use instead of in case of Sesko being in poor form or injured, because we suffered with that big time. You've got options in the number 10. You've still got the likes of Mount. I don't think you're going to have him for very long, but you still technically have Xerxes. Like, you've got good depth actually in pretty much every single position there. I just think that you play a 3 in midfield, whether it's a 2 or a 1, 2 and a 1 or a 3, and you can get a pretty good team out of this.
Looking at the formation then, because as you've said rightly, that not all 4 at the backs are made the same, not all 3 at the backs, obviously, because 90% of managers ever play 4 at the back, and there's a gigantic variety in there. The most open I've ever seen us look is second season Ten Hag, where we were averaging, there was a sort of 3 or 4 month spell where we were averaging over 20 shots against every single game. And obviously that was the beginning of the end for Ten Hag, so who knows whether the players were quite working enough, and the squad's better now, the attack is more hard working than it used to be. Garnacho and Rashford as your 2 wingers isn't going to give you the same defensive solidity as Mbeumo and Cunha. But how do we...
Cunha especially.
Yeah, like there's times the other day he was winning tackles on our goal line and putting the ball out for corners.
Every week.
Yeah, he's fantastic at that, and I feel like the expectation of our wingers has changed completely from a point where it's like, you shouldn't be asking Manchester United wingers to do that sort of stuff. I remember away at Newcastle, and it was Rashford, I think, or let's not even say him because I can't remember exactly, asked to track back into our box to cover a runner, and the pundits were saying, United wingers shouldn't have to do that. The manager should be able to work out. You think, well, no, we should work hard. You should be able to track back, and you should have to do all the dirty stuff as well, and we seem more up for that now. But do you not worry that we will go back to 20 shots against? Or how do we avoid that what we saw under Ten Hag?
No, because I still think that the reason that we were seeing that is that the rest defence was 3-1.
Okay. What was it, 3-1-6?
Yeah.
So just too many men getting forward?
Yeah, and not enough desire to get back.
Yeah.
That was the problem, is like we would press from midfield, someone would go press the ball, miss, because they've gone on their own.
Yeah. And
then you've got, I think at times it might have been like Eriksen trying to press.
Yeah. No legs.
You know what I mean? And then it's Eriksen or Casemiro is in front of the defence then, because sometimes quite often you would see Casemiro press from there. Mm. You're getting carved open. Bruno's never in behind the ball. He's always in front of the ball. And especially then, because he was basically a number 9, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So your 2 in behind was Eriksen and Casemiro. One of them would go and press every single time.
Yeah.
And then it was 5v4 every single time. And that's why we were getting so many shots against us. And they were low-value shots, but there was a lot of shots.
Yeah, there was a lot of shots.
I mean, you can even say that that's happened to a greater or lesser extent now. And why? Well, because you're trying to play Bruno in that too, and that means it's a 3-1 that you're running up against.
Looking at sort of the job of the technical director and the sporting director, Jason Wilcox's role, Omar Barada, to a lesser degree, Jim Ratcliffe, talking about this through line of, we're not going to deviate from this course. We may have pieces come in and out, whether that be managers or players, but this is what United are going to be, and we're going to try and stick to that. What do you think the sort of the DNA of United is, if you even accept that as a phrase? Because we've seen Gary Neville talk about it. We've seen so many people talk about how Amorim isn't the right man for Man United. He's not a United manager. What do we need to see? What are they talking about with that?
It was what we was talking about last week on the podcast. It's the lack of risk from him was what pissed me off the most.
Yeah.
I think we looked so much better being offensive. And I don't know about anybody else, I've been watching clips of Ollie's United all morning. My cock out, because it was unbelievable.
It's
like just one-touch football, so many men getting forward.
Yeah.
That's Manchester United DNA. When you get a goal up, what do you do?
Get another one. Yeah.
What was Amorim doing?
Yeah.
Trying to consolidate.
Yeah.
That was what was irritating me the most, because when you look at the pure facts of where we were as a club, and on one hand I understand it, but I came to a different conclusion. This is a team that doesn't keep clean sheets. But I feel like we were more effective at keeping clean sheets when we weren't trying to keep clean sheets, but when we were trying to score another goal. I think when we tried to keep clean sheets, think about this. If you go 1-0 down in a game, I'm playing you, I score. What's your incentive next? If you're a goal down and I relax, you're like, I can take more risk because they're not taking as much risk.
Yeah.
It invites you to attack more. And if you attack more, you're probably going to score. If we're Manchester United with 11 players behind the ball against fucking Wolves at home is ludicrous. Yeah. There's no threat on the counter whatsoever. I should have enough to leave 2 up. Maybe not 3, but I should be able to leave at least 1 or at least 2 up. I'm not, not stupid that a team's going to be able to pass you around, but make them think about us. It's the same thing that happens at corners. It absolutely pisses me off. And you saw it the other week, didn't you? Was it Chelsea against Arsenal?
Yeah.
Where they left 3 up at a corner, and now, why have we got 11 in the box at corners? Go and put 2 on the halfway line at least, and watch what the opposition do.
Because I feel like the general consensus over the last 15, 20 years of football is risk mitigation. It's drifted towards stopping the opposition having the possibility of doing the things they're good at.
Look at playing out.
Yeah.
That became... What happens is you get the laptop nerds that go, and it happens... What's the number one way you lose the ball in a football match?
I would guess... I don't know.
Throw-ins. So
really?
Yeah, throw-ins. Throw-ins is literally
the highest percentage.
Yeah, you lose the possession the most. That's the one act that you lose possession the most on these throw-ins. So people would have looked at goal kicks 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and then have said, we don't get any benefit from just smashing it long.
Yeah.
Which was just the total
50-50.
Yeah. Why don't we just pass it short? And then the rules changed to be able to pass it inside your box.
Yeah, because you didn't, for younger people, defending players couldn't go inside their own 18-yard box, the same as the attackers until 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Something like that,
yeah.
So there was always just sending it long. Sending it long as far as you can. And then we try and compete for territory and whatever. So someone would have done the maths on that and said, actually, we are better keeping hold of the ball. And possession football 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago became such the norm. People wanted technical. They wanted to defend with the ball.
Yeah.
They wanted to take the risk out of the game by doing that. And then what we saw, I think it was the start of last season, wasn't it? The pressing had got so good from playing out, because playing out had become so institutionalised that people got really, really good at just, instead of being +1 in the back line, because that's defensive principle basics, instead of being +1 in the back line, people went, fuck it, go man for man in the back line. Let's go and get that ball there, because if we get that ball there, you're up against, you're going to have a defender on the goal line probably, near enough. So you're not going to be offside. If you've got men in and around the box there, like the chance of scoring from a turnover in or on the edge of the box is going to go compared to every other thingy. And then we saw it at the start of last season.
Isn't it?
Well, a gegenpress is pressing after you've lost it.
Yeah, but
it's the counter press.
But most goals come within 10 seconds of getting the ball. So if you can force enough turnovers, the chance of scoring go massively up.
So this evolutions are happening really fast now, where they might have taken 4 or 5 years because of internet, Twitter, tactical analysis, blogs, things like that.
AI.
Possibly even AI learning, yeah. I mean, it blows my mind that the first time that Prozone was used in England was Manchester United, and it was Manchester United against Juventus, and it was 1999 treble season, and that was the first time that someone was able to translate what was going on the pitch. I think 24 cameras around the pitch onto a 2D video of the dots, basically, like Football Manager used to be. That the first time it happened was 98-99 season. It was United versus Juventus, and that was people. Fergie doesn't get any credit for being the person that's as open as that as possible. Can't remember the guy's name, but either way, all of these things have happened recently, and obviously the advent of technology is increasing the frequency at which those things sort of take hold. The fact that you're seeing tactical evolutions be unnoticed and then countered is happening more and more frequent. So the pressing at goal kicks happened last year. What's happened this year?
Well, Amorim particularly was doing the long ball, second ball thing again.
Wasn't on his own.
Yeah.
That's literally the start of last season. It was like an ungodly amount of goals scored from turnovers.
Yeah.
This season,
mistakes.
You're seeing goalkeepers just smashing it long.
Yeah.
There'll be another tactical evolution again in 12 months. So I totally agree. What you're seeing with football at the moment is a massive risk mitigation. But I think one of the riskiest things you can do is try and play safe. I think some of the best football I've ever seen was one touch, bodies in the box, going for it, flair, dribbling. That to me is what gets the crowd off their feet. It's the reason why we pack Old Trafford. That is United DNA. Yeah. Matt Busby played a three at the back. It was a 3-box-3 he used to play, the WM formation. It was a 3. Fergie played 4-4-2 until he didn't, because he played 4-4-1-1 with Cantona playing off in the hole with a striker in front of him. And then it was like a 4-2-3-1 when York and Cole were playing. People like to call them a partnership, but Dwight York did the Cantona thing. He was operating off in space.
Like 20 odd assists that season.
I think it was 20. Was it 29 goals, 20 assists, something like that?
Like he wasn't just standing on the goal line tapping the ball in. He was so much creative work.
He was a playmaker.
Yeah.
Dwight York, I don't know why, does not get the love that he should do for
that season. The level of
footballers
anyone's ever had for United.
He's still partying now from the back of that.
Yeah, that's one of the issues, to be fair.
But I think the evolution of that, people call that system a 4-4-2.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really. It was asymmetric. Yes, you would see Beckham get into the final third and he would cross from deep, but Ryan Giggs played off the front two, if you like. It was almost a 4-3-3.
Yeah.
And then we did switch to, I think he tried to switch to a 4-3-3 2001 when we brought Veron in. I think, it should on paper be an incredible midfield, Veron, Scholes and Roy Keane. But it didn't work because Giggs by that point wasn't the Ryan Giggs of 1994 and David Beckham wasn't Cristiano Ronaldo in terms of like a flying aggressive winger. And it took him a few years to bring Tevez, Rooney and Ronaldo, who was a more flexible, fluid, quick, aggressive attacking forward three. But like those evolutions, they happened all the time, but they were also totally different formations. The only thing that you could say that connected all of them is that they played with risk.
Yeah.
That was the one thing. I shared a clip on my Instagram today about Sir Alex Ferguson talking about being 1-0 down with 15 minutes to go. You've got to go for it. You have to go for it. What do you have to lose? I think that's the crux of Manchester United is you try and win every game.
Yeah. No
matter what. You find a way to win every game. And when I look at what Ole Gunnar Solskjaer did with Manchester United, I thought it was very refreshing that after we had Jose Mourinho, and you knew if he was going to Anfield, Jose wasn't trying to win that game.
No.
He was trying to get a draw.
You'd almost prefer a draw.
I think
we didn't take any chances and we didn't mess about.
Well, if you look at Jose Mourinho's 7 rules for football, don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
No risk. It is the opposite of Manchester United.
Yeah.
And then when we had Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I felt confident that we was at least going to try and win. We would go to the Etihad with a game plan that didn't say we're going to try and keep it tight. No, it was like, here's how we're going to win.
How can we win? Yeah.
You go to Parc des Princes with, honestly, a fucking joke of a team. A joke of a team. And you beat Paris in Paris with a team that's got no rights to be in a European quarter-final. And you do it. Because he played with risk. And he went for it, and he played to a team's strengths rather than try to mitigate the team's weaknesses. So if there is a United DNA, it's risk. So Matt Busby played with risk, and he would add entertainment onto that, I think, as well, which I think is just being risky, making things happen. Sir Alex Ferguson played with risk, whether it was 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, it was played with risk. And it was empowering players with the confidence to go and try something and make it happen. Yeah. And that's the United DNA.
And I think some people, especially United fans, who you just think, well, surely everyone wants that. Everyone wants to win every game. But there are clubs like Chelsea, for instance, who genuinely don't mind playing risk-averse, will score 1, you'll score non-football. Whereas you score 3, we'll score 4. Like Atletico Madrid, especially under Simeone, they embrace low-scoring, low-risk, low-excitement games. That's sort of their thing. And there is something to be said for that. And, it's the kind of, in a sort of MMA terms, like the stifling wrestler versus the flair boxer or karate sort of fighter. Either can win, and maybe boxing is like...
famously Italian clubs.
Yeah.
Love a 0-0 or a 1-0.
Yeah, they love it. They're all over it. But there is... some fans don't mind that, some clubs don't mind that, some clubs are built on that. But United isn't built on that. United is built on scoring more than the opposition and taking chances and flair players and players winning the Ballon d'Or because of the great things they do. There's a reason, a very low number, a small handful of defenders have ever won the Ballon d'Or. You want to see attacking players and you want your best players to be your attackers, and especially as United fans, that's what we're used to seeing. So do you think that formation or not, sort of acumen, experience, gravitas as a manager, because people talk about someone that fills a room, someone that's a United manager. Do you think they should just show it all on the pitch, whoever it is, or do you think there is also this other side of you've got to be the United manager?
The United manager thing, I think you have to grow into that.
Right.
I don't know by that account, Jose's a United manager.
100%.
Mad charismatic. You could argue Louis van Gaal's a United manager for that. You could argue Solskjaer's not.
Yeah.
But he played the best football that aligned with us the most.
Yeah, that's true.
Does Darren Fletcher strike you as the sort of like presidential Matt Busby kind of character?
Not
apart
really.
from his accent?
Yeah, not really.
Nah, not really.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that really respect his football opinions. So if he can translate that into it, because it is a different game now. Matt Busby was the manager, if you want to get into the manager versus head coach argument. Sir Alex Ferguson was the academy director, director of football, head of recruitment, first team coach and manager.
Yeah. And
probably a couple of other hats as well. I don't know if that exists in modern football. Sir Alex Ferguson was someone who modern football grew around what he was doing.
Yeah.
And he was plugged into it all, so it didn't really overwhelm him. I think if you asked anybody to do what he was doing now, they'd crumble. And he was so on top of everything. He didn't have to worry about his job. He didn't have to worry about results. He was just, he could have a 5-year plan for what was going to happen because he was secure enough to do that. There's no one lasted, what we are, Jose 2.5 years.
Yeah, no one's hit 3.
I mean, considering that Sir Jim Radcliffe said the Project 150 is out the fucking window now, I guess, isn't it?
Well, maybe if they stick to that, the roadmap, maybe you can plug a new manager in. We'll find out. But
it's only 2 years, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think in an ideal world, the next manager is someone that does it at that 3-year point. But they're not gonna if they're not successful. And I think Jim understands us. I think Jim is a United fan. He was at the Nou Camp in '99, for fuck's sake. As mythical as a line that is.
Yeah.
Like, he shook Sinatra's hand.
Yeah.
Like, he knows the game. Like, he knows exactly what we're after.
Yeah.
You'd think he knows exactly what we're after.
Yeah.
I think being risk averse is the quickest way to lose the United fan base. You could feel it at Old Trafford as well, to be honest.
Yeah.
When some of the performances that we had under Amorim, you kind of like, this isn't United. I'm in a Stretford end. They are not a fucking shy bunch at telling you what's going on.
Yeah.
People are like, this is fucking shit, mate.
Yeah.
I think you've, didn't really have that under Ollie.
No. Even when we're losing, it felt like we might win this. Yeah. Right. Cheers, Steve. Cheers for watching at home as well. Let us know your thoughts. Whether it's names, whether it's new managers you want to see, what does the new manager need to bring to Manchester United? Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you in a bit.